What's up guys, Jimmy here, and today I want to give you guys some beginner tips on how to get started with Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. Maybe you just watched EVO Japan or some other tournament and you were excited by the amazing gameplay and you wanted to try it out yourself. Maybe you're coming from the Street Fighter community just like I am, or you're completely brand new to the genre. Welcome. Either way, I'm going to be teaching you guys some, well, do's and don'ts, and hopefully you'll find this guide helpful in getting started with the game. So right away, I think you should check out the tutorial mode. You can find it under practice, and it's just a great way for the game to introduce the game to you. If you have no idea, if you've never played this game before, this is, I think, the go-to option because it's going to teach you how to move, how to attack, how to block. All of it is explained here, so I don't want to really get into the gameplay too much when it's already explained here. Definitely check out the tutorial. It's going to teach you most of the things that you need to know about the game and how to, well, attack and block. There's a lot of interesting mechanics like feinting and braking that the game is going to teach you later on as well. Don't worry too much about it if it overwhelms you. There's just going to be a lot of things that, well, you're not going to be that great at. So I think you should just focus on a couple of things. Get the basics down. If you don't want to use feinting or braking, if you don't want to use some of the advanced techniques, that's totally fine. I think this is actually a great way to start with the game anyways. Boil it down to something really basic and then build on top of that. That's really how you learn a fighting game. You can obviously revisit this tutorial anytime if you feel like at some point, okay, now I'm up to the task, I'm going to check out braking and feinting, I'm going to check out more. You can always come back, and that's how I recommend doing it anyways. Don't just feel like you're at school and you need to memorize a lot of stuff. The game, obviously, it's a video game and it's supposed to be fun, right? So do it at your own pace and go through them once you're ready. After the tutorial, I highly recommend you check your button configuration because there's one thing that I found really annoying when I got started, and that is not being able to use braking and feinting on the same button. I thought it was a bit odd having to do both of these actions with separate motions. I think most people nowadays actually use a feint button, like this, for example, here. Now, this is what you want to do. You want to set this feint button, and we'll get into that later on. It's going to be a really great tool to, well, to have a little bit less complexity because, as I said, usually, and I think this is how the game teaches you that as well, braking, special moves, and feinting are used completely separately with different buttons, but you can actually do everything with the same button if you set a feint button. So highly recommend it, do that. So for the next step, this really depends on who you are. If you've already had a lot of experience with Street Fighter, you might actually just want to briefly go to training mode, practice some combos, and or maybe do the missions. Maybe you want to do the missions and check out what well, combo opportunities your character has. This is something I actually recommend doing as well. It gives you a basic overview of what your character can do. It'll teach you some things about the combos that you can expect from your own character. So here you can see a little preview. You can clear them. It's a little bit of a challenge as well, especially when feinting and braking is involved. So this gives you a good overview of some of the things that you should be looking for. But it's not necessary. If you find it frustrating or if you don't want to take a look at that, that's fine too. I mean, for offline gameplay episodes of Southtown, I found it actually to be much more fun than I expected. I think if you're a really if you're a casual player, I think you're gonna like that a lot. Obviously, the classic arcade mode is there. If you have a friend you want to play against, classic and special versus is quite interesting. You can actually change up the rules a little bit if you want to turn it a little bit into more of a casual experience, a little bit more party mode. You can do that as well. Here, this is really where you separate between, are you a competitive player or are you more of a casual? This is where you go separate ways, essentially. For me personally, I just ended up playing ranked a lot because for me, this is how I learn a game. I just play matches until I get the hang of it effectively. But yeah, you do you. I mean, there are a lot of ways to improve without having to face human opponents. This is something that a lot of players unfortunately have trouble with. Ranked anxiety is real. I mean, you can go casual match, but you're still playing against human opponents, right? And playing against the bot is also not always recommended because you'll probably learn some bad habits. So this is something you have to be really careful about, which is why I think one thing you should probably check out is the clone feature. Once you have a little bit of gameplay done on whatever character you're choosing, you can actually create an AI version effectively of the character that you're playing. It's quite interesting. I tested it out earlier as well, and you can only really play against the AI if you've played with your character, so this is not something you'll do right away. But I found it quite interesting that you can really get rid of that rank anxiety and still, feel like you're playing someone who resembles a human being, right? A lot of the combos that I do with Marco, for example, they got copied really well. So in a lot of ways, this is a little bit different than playing against a regular bot. So definitely an option to look out for as well. One thing I also highly recommend is checking out the replay option. I mean, when I watched Evo Japan today, I noticed right away that I'm learning a lot of stuff just by watching strong players compete, their thought processes, the combos that they're choosing. There's a lot to gain from, especially if you've already experienced other fighting games. You're gonna get the hang of this a lot more quickly. But even as a complete beginner, if you're just lost and you don't really know what are the combos that I should be doing, you can just watch a replay of a strong player, or really any player, and you'll see what are they doing, you know? Just pick any replay right here and just look at the match and see what they're actually doing, you know? This is a good way to just see how much are you in line with the other players, especially if you're stuck in a specific rank. You can check out somebody who's a little bit above your own rank and see what they're doing, because most likely they're doing something better in a specific way that you can see in the replays that is causing them to be higher ranked than you. So definitely check out the replay option. Now, before we get into some gameplay, I do want to talk about the character choices that you have to make in this game. Especially as a beginner, I fully understand choosing the right character for you is often not that easy, and a lot of people struggle with that. Now, SNK does have statistics about character usage, and in general, you can be sure that, the characters who are, on top are often characters that are also somewhat easy to use. So it's not an exception, or it's not a coincidence that Terry, Hotaru, Rock are there. Gato actually a little bit surprising to me because he does seem a bit technical, but I've not played him, so it's hard for me to give advice here. I do think if you go down the list, you'll see more and more technical characters. I did start with Ronaldo, for example, and I found it to be very technical, and it took a while for me to get used to him. So expect to have worse results. And I think this is like the most important thing that I want to teach you. Expectations, setting the right expectations. There's no rule whatsoever to just believe that you have to pick one character or you cannot pick a specific character. You love Ronaldo, pick him, you know? There's nobody stopping you from doing that, but you need to understand there are some characters who are going to give you good results right away and others who won't really do that for you. So this is something to keep in mind when it comes to choosing the character for you. SNK is actually gradually releasing character guides for all the characters. Just recently they released one for Marco, the character that I'm mainly playing at the moment. So yeah, I'll probably link that as well to the YouTube channel so you can check out their character guide, so you have an introduction. Maybe you'll see a character that you really like. But yeah, this is really something you have to decide on your own. Try a couple of characters. If you go Terry, there's nothing wrong with Terry. You know, Terry is, I guess, the go-to choice. Especially when you're choosing Smart Style. Smart Style, this is something that I want to talk about as well. If you don't really know how to play the game and you're not willing to learn a lot about the mechanics and everything, how to do combos, that's totally fine, you know? You want to start the game and start having fun right away, play smart style, because then you have auto combos, everything is simplified. It's very similar to modern controls in Street Fighter 6 as well. You'll definitely feel right at home if you are coming from Street Fighter, because smart style is effectively like modern controls. So yeah, as you can see, if you choose a smart style, nothing really changes except that Terry's lead for people who play on smart style is just even more extended. It's kind of crazy. You can go down that list and you'll see those are usually the characters, Kane, Vox. Those are the characters that are more technical. Gato actually ending up really low for the smart style as well, which is interesting. So yeah, take it as a recommendation, you know? If you have a specific character that you absolutely love, then pick him, regardless of where he ends up in the list. Just keep in mind, some characters are definitely easier to get started with than others. So now let's talk a little bit about the gameplay side. As I said, I don't want to focus on the things that the game already teaches you. For the most part in the tutorial, you can check out the tutorial for that. But a couple of things that I found really interesting as a Street Fighter player, for example, was the fact that the EX moves of a special move, those are not generally the ones that are invincible. If you do that on Wake Up, for example, the EX DP, it even resembles Ryu, right? It's not actually invincible, you know, so you got to be careful with that. Instead, if you do a special move, it's gonna say invincible on the side that you're playing on to indicate that this move is indeed invincible. So I highly recommend you, check out for all the characters that you're going to play. What are the moves that are actually invincible and which ones are not? This is going to be really crucial, because when you get knocked down and the opponent tries to pressure you, you really need to know which super to use or which special move to use. For Marco, this is going to be the light DP. In general, it seems like there's a theme. The light versions of these Shoryuken type moves, these uppercut moves, those are the ones that are invincible. But there could be exceptions, I'm not quite sure about that. The same thing applies to supers. I kind of hinted at that earlier, but I just want to make sure you absolutely know this. Just because you're doing a super, it does not mean you're fully invincible. If you're doing this super, for example, for Marco, you're not actually invincible. You can get hit out of it before the attack even comes out. So really be careful. This one is invincible. So there are multiple like level 1 supers that you can do. Some of them are invincible, others are not. Level 2, actually the same thing. This one happens to be invincible, but if you do the other one, there's no invincible message. So that means you gotta be careful. You cannot just wake up with that and expect it to work. So keep that in mind, you know. Invincibility in this game does not follow like a standard formula. In Street Fighter, most supers are just invincible. This is not the case for this game. I guess the first thing that I should have mentioned is, if you check out your character, just check out the command list. If you don't know what attack it has, it'll give you, obviously it's going to give you an understanding right away what special moves or what special like properties, unique attacks your character has, and how to execute that. This is something you'll also learn in the tutorial, like the missions mode where you do the trials. This is something you can learn there as well. But if you want to have a full list, this is it, you know. As I said, if you're a beginner, I highly recommend you play the smart style as well. It is like modern controls in Street Fighter 6, and you can switch it up here as well if you press Y to get the command list for the smart style in this game as well. It's a lot easier, it's a lot more beginner friendly if you're playing like that. So check it out, and definitely make sure to understand what your character can do. So now let's talk about blocking in this game. So it's actually kind of similar to Street Fighter, where you hold back to block. If it's, a crouching block is just holding down and back at the same time. So really similar. As long as the opponent does not cross you up, that's gonna work. But yeah, if there is a cross-up scenario like this, you'll see the cross-up message, which means the opponent needed to block in the opposite direction. Cross-ups are actually kind of difficult for beginners to block and see, especially in this game, because in this game you can alter your jump arc. So take a look at, like, even though I'm so close, I'm actually not doing a cross up right here. So this is kind of tricky in this game. So, and because of how tricky jumps are in this game, it can actually be really useful to use the Rev Guard button. So you actually have a block button, unlike Street Fighter, and this button requires you to use up some of your meter. Your rev gauge is gonna build up if you use the Rev Guard too much, so be careful with that, so you can't just keep using that. But at least it will block left and right situations. So this is a great tool to avoid ambiguous jump-in scenarios. But you gotta keep in mind, if you're just doing this and the opponent is going for a low, you'll still get hit. So this is something you gotta be careful about. Even if you're rev guarding, you have to do it low. One thing that I find quite interesting, and it's an extra benefit that I was not aware of, is the fact that rev guarding actually pushes back the opponent a lot more when they're hitting you. So if you do rev guard and they're hitting some kind of string, it'll actually push you away really far, and to the point where it messes with a lot of strings, including Marco. Marco has a couple of combos that I really like to do, and they actually do not work easily on opponents that are using rev guard. If you rev guard the first hard kick, for example, the follow-up move, this crouching heavy punch, does not combo. So it will not hit, not even on block. It will just flat out completely whiff, and the opponent will get a whiff punish scenario. Something I have not used at all in the fight so far, and I'm almost A rank with Marco. Within a day, by the way, I made it quite far into the ranking with Marco. So I guess for those who are playing Ryu or a similar character, any Shoto character, I think they're going to feel right at home with Marco, by the way. Just a side note. You also have to understand, on high level especially, Fatal Fury City of the Wolves has one of the most intricate blocking systems that I've ever seen in any fighting game. There are just defense, you have hyper defense, you have rev guard, as I said, you have, well, normal blocking. There are a lot of ways to block in this game, and they all have different pros and cons. So this is where you see, the more you learn the game, the more I think you'll have to really learn the blocking system properly. There are some interesting things that can happen, like jumping, for example. You're generally vulnerable, but you can use just defense in order to still block. So effectively, if you do a block within 8 frames, if the opponent hits you within 8 frames, right when you press block, you'll get a just defense. It has several advantages to get the just defense over the regular block, but most importantly, in the air, just defense is the only blocking mechanism that you have. So if you just hold back or down back, you're not going to be blocking anything if the opponent tries to attack you. So you have to have really tight timing, and this is something that I noticed really early on. There's a big advantage that you can get if you're jumping and you develop the habit of doing an empty jump from time to time and doing a delayed block in case the opponent tries to anti-air you. I guess this naturally leads me to another important point, and that is the jumping game and how you anti-air. This is a fundamentally important thing, I guess, in any fighting game, but in particular in City of the Wolves, because jumping is so powerful, you need to learn how to anti-air somebody. And this is, like, if you don't know how to do that, that's immediately going to be a problem in your gameplay. And if you do know how to do that, you're immediately going to jump in your ranking right away. So, as I said, you can get tricked into a bad anti-air if the opponent is using a just defense. This is something to keep in mind. So a situation like this can occur where the opponent, like, you actually did an uppercut and you think you got the opponent, but bam, just defense, and now they get a free punish on you effectively. This is where another thing that I mentioned earlier comes into play, where you can use breaking in order to make sure you're still safe on your anti-air. This move right here, by the way, does not have invincibility, but it does have invincibility against aerial attacks. So on wake up in the reversal situation, when you're getting off the ground, it's not going to help you, but if the opponent is jumping in, you will safely be able to anti-air the opponent. especially if you combine it with breaking. This is something that I really had to learn the hard way. The heavy DP, the heavy uppercut, you can break it. You can do this and then you'll break it. Effectively, you'll cancel the animation, and you can do that for a lot of moves, so you gotta check that out for the character that you have, but most likely you'll have something like that in your arsenal. And if the opponent is trying to trick you into a bad anti-air, you can, I mean, if I get it right, let's try that again. Bam, you see that? If I break my heavy uppercut right there, it does not actually put me in a punishable state. So this is very important to do. Not only do you get a combo extension on hit, but you'll also be safe if the opponent is using a just defense. By the way, this is the reason why earlier I told you should be setting a feint button, because without the feint button, the game actually explains this to you in a really odd way. So basically, if you're doing the uppercut and you're trying to break it, so you're trying to cancel the animation, the game tells you to use the light punch and the light kick right after you execute the uppercut in order to break it. This is the way to do it, but what the game does not tell you for some reason is that you can do the same thing with the rev button. So you just do the attack, and if you hit the rev button, the same thing is going to happen. So this is why if you use the feint button, okay, I set my feint button right here, and the feint button is going to execute a heavy kick and a rev button. Alright, so you're pressing rev and heavy kick. So if you're trying to feint your attacks, or if you're trying to do a feint cancel like this, or if you're doing a uppercut into a break, it's now going to be the same button, because for the breaking you're going to be pressing the rev button and the heavy kick, and the game is going to recognize that effectively as well, you trying to break your special moves. I think this is going to be a lot easier, and it's going to make you a lot less confused about, well, what buttons to press. For me, it was a lot easier. At first, I really struggled to do these breaks because I just couldn't remember to do light punch and light kick. And so just having one button to do multiple things is just really, really good. So I highly recommend you actually follow the advice from earlier in the video. Set the feint button. It's going to be very useful. Now let's talk about rolls in this game, because this is a mechanic that I've actually not used at all so far, but I think it's really quite useful to get out of trouble or to confuse how the opponent is supposed to be pressuring you in knockdown scenarios. So if you get knocked down and you press light punch and the back button, which I did not get correctly, but let's try that again, you'll get a short roll. A short roll back, to be more precise. If you do the same thing with the heavy punch, you'll get a long roll back to create even more distance. But you can do that in the opposite direction as well. With the light one, you can roll right up to the opponent, or with the heavy punch, you can roll even further and potentially get even behind them. So this is something that has happened to me a couple of times where I thought I can pressure the opponent just like in Street Fighter, but all of a sudden they ended up being behind me. Today at EVO Japan, I actually learned there's a really cool option select with a rev guard to chase down opponents regardless of what direction they choose, which is interesting, but more for high level play. You'll discover this once you get better at the game as well. But yeah, basically, if you get the knockdown, you can hold the rev button and hold back as well. If they choose to roll behind you, you'll automatically dash up to them, because holding the dash button, the rev button and forward is a dash. So if they get behind you, holding back becomes forward, and that's why you'll automatically chase them down. It's quite interesting how that works and how you can utilize that. Probably requires some practice as well, but good to know. You can actually, there's tech involved in the roll mechanic, and the roll mechanic itself is something you should be using. Heavy punch and light punch, and plus a direction, and you'll get a short or a long a roll. Definitely don't forget about that. One more thing to keep in mind is if you get hit by an EX move, you cannot actually roll. Even if you press it correctly, it's not going to happen. So keep that in mind once you're like on offense or on defense as well, because this is one of the benefits for using EX moves. They use up your rev meter, but it'll also make it way more easy and more predictable to pressure the opponent afterwards. The same thing applies to rev blow, by the way. If you get hit by a rev blow, you cannot do a roll, so keep that in mind as well. And that's really going to be it about the gameplay elements that I want to talk about. There's obviously a lot more to talk about, especially just defense, hyper defense, and how to utilize those actions like guard canceling, for example. But I don't really consider those beginner-friendly mechanics, and you'll get into them once you get interested in the game even more. What I do want to mention, however, is an approach for really any fighting game on how to get started, because most players make the mistake when they're getting into a new fighting game. They learn this like absurdly difficult or long combo that I've seen at a tournament, for example, and now they have to land that one combo and that's it. If they land that combo, that's all they need to know. It's usually a bad approach because your focus is going to be too much on just one thing, and it's also the wrong thing. Your damage output, while obviously great if you have great combo damage, it's not really the determining factor of, well, who's winning and who's losing. In this game, especially where jumping is so strong, you need to be able to cover jump-ins, and you need to be able to know how to deal with them. This is why I mentioned learning uppercuts into breaking to stay safe in case they use JD. Stuff like that is very, very important. Just defense probably not going to be used that much on lower level if you're a beginner, but anti-airing, if you just anti-air your opponent when they're jumping at you, that's going to be a huge step in the right direction to get better anyways. So something to keep in mind. Simplify your game plan, okay? Take a look at maybe a couple of replays, maybe even strong players, and ask yourself, okay, what are they fundamentally doing, and what can I copy without immediately being overwhelmed? Create a little bit of a baseline, something simple that you can already execute, or that you're trying to execute. Try to get good at it, try to get consistent at it, and then build on top of that. The moment you feel like you're getting stuck, and it's not about like not being unfamiliar with the combos, you're going to be dropping a lot of combos, okay? Like even if you practice a lot of the combos in the training mode right here, you're going to be dropping them in the real game until you get a lot more comfortable with it. That's normal. But once you reach beyond that phase and you're like, now I'm kind of getting stuck at a specific rank and I'm not really seeing any improvements anymore, that's when you usually want to change something. That's when you usually want to ask yourself, okay, can I do maybe a little bit more damage? You know, that one combo that you've been practicing or that you've been seeing others execute, maybe you want to try that out now as well, you know, and you'll see, oh wow, once you get more damage, obviously you'll also get to a higher rank because you're just going to beat opponents that you normally wouldn't be able to beat. This is something to keep in mind, you know, build your gameplay up step by step. Don't try to do too many things at the same time. And most importantly, whatever it takes, try to go at your own pace. I think this is the most important thing. A lot of people just get frustrated because they're not improving at the rate that they had hoped for, but improvements will really come, especially early on if you're a beginner. Improvements come very quickly and like gradually. Something that you might struggle in the first couple of games, like don't give up on game 5 when you could already learn what you're so frustrated about by game 10, you know? Your muscle memory, you're going to be developing muscle memory very quickly, and you're going to make improvements early on, especially early on. It's going to be very fast. But yeah, go at your own pace. Everybody has different habits. Maybe some of you guys are going to enjoy going to training mode to lab. Others might actually just enjoy playing against the CPU. Or online ranked matches, for example, to get better at the game. Like, just do it at your own pace and whatever feels right. As long as you're having fun, you're doing something right. And if you're not having fun anymore, then like it's time to think about, okay, like what is wrong with the approach? Just don't do too many things at the same time. This is usually the thing that makes people frustrated and they drop the game as a result. This game has a lot to offer. I mean, I've played it for so long at this point, I'm really confident in saying it's a great game to play and also watch. I mean, Evo Japan, as I said, just happened today. Watching the finals was absolutely amazing. So yeah, don't miss out on an amazing game. Just remember what I had to say in this video. If you have any more questions as well, definitely let me know in the comments below. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you soon.